The U.S. Central Command just executed what President Trump called one of the most powerful bombing raids in the history of the Middle East, targeting military installations on Kharg Island, a 20-square-kilometer outcrop in the Persian Gulf that handles 90% of Iran's crude oil exports. Trump announced the strike on Truth Social Friday night. His words were precise and deliberate. Every military target on the island had been totally obliterated. The oil infrastructure was spared, for now, and he made clear that sparing it was a choice, not a limitation. This is week 3 of a U.S.-Israel war against Iran. The conflict began February 28th with a joint airstrike that killed Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in its opening salvo. Since then, Iran has been operating under a new and untested Supreme Leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, the late Ayatollah's son, who has yet to appear publicly. His first major order? Block the Strait of Hormuz. More than a dozen commercial vessels have already been attacked in the Persian Gulf. Iranian strikes hit Dubai's Jebel Ali port on March 1st. Israel has been hitting energy infrastructure on the Iranian mainland, and Kharg Island, until last night, had remained untouched. That line no longer exists. What Washington executed here is not a full escalation. It's a calibrated signal, coercive pressure, deliberately staged below the threshold of economic warfare. By striking military targets while publicly advertising the restraint on oil infrastructure, the U.S. is communicating 3 things simultaneously. To Tehran, that its most valuable asset is reachable. To global markets, that Washington is managing the pace of this conflict. And to Gulf Arab states, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, whose own energy infrastructure Iran has now explicitly threatened to reduce to, quote, a pile of ashes. This is deterrence through graduated pressure. The question is whether Tehran reads it that way. Iran's response came quickly. Tehran threatened to strike U.S.-linked oil facilities across the region if its own energy infrastructure is hit. That threat is not empty. It extends the battlefield to Gulf Arab nations that are not combatants, but are deeply exposed. Meanwhile, 6 U.S. service members were confirmed dead after a refueling aircraft went down over western Iraq. The operational costs of this war are already accumulating, before any major Iranian retaliation to last night's strike has even been registered. Crude oil prices, already in crisis, are now absorbing the possibility that the Kharg terminal could be the next target. The market is not waiting for confirmation. The most plausible short-term development, Iran responds asymmetrically, escalating attacks on Gulf shipping or infrastructure rather than striking U.S. assets directly. A direct strike on American forces would invite a response Tehran cannot absorb. There is a secondary scenario the markets are quietly pricing in: back-channel ceasefire signaling through Qatar, Oman, or Turkey. Iran's command structure has been degraded. Its oil revenue is throttled. The new leadership is unproven. The conditions for a negotiated off-ramp exist. Whether the political will does is another question. The third scenario is the one no one wants to model. Iran strikes a Gulf Arab oil facility. Washington responds by taking out Kharg's oil terminal. The global energy market enters uncharted territory. Containment probability is declining with each 48-hour cycle. Washington has chosen to strike Kharg's military targets while publicly broadcasting its restraint on the oil infrastructure, essentially advertising both its capability and its ceiling at the same time. The strategic question is this: does that transparency strengthen deterrence, or does it give Tehran a precise map of how far it can push before the next trigger is pulled?